Betrayal at House on the Hill is getting a 3rd edition, D&D is getting a new starter set later this year, and G.I. Joe is getting a miniatures board game. This and more in this week's Hobby News on Hobby Night. I'm Angela, now let's get to it. We're finally getting a new edition of Betrayal at House on the Hill. It originally came out in 2004. It's had 2 editions since then and a plethora of themed editions as well, but this is going to be the 3rd in the original game series, and I'm super stoked for this. I love the Betrayal series. I'm a huge fan of the Legacy edition, but I also really like the Baldur's Gate edition, which is their D&D version. And the reason I like the Baldur's Gate edition is because it actually addresses one of the problems I have with 2nd edition House on the Hill, which is that sometimes in the 2nd edition, oh my god, the betrayal can happen in round 1, and then you have no real opportunity. You basically feel like you have to reset the game because there's no opportunity for the people who are on the good side usually to win at that point because they haven't been able to explore the house, they haven't gotten any items or anything. So when Baldur's Gate sort of addressed this and made it so that the betrayal couldn't happen until at least a couple of rounds in, it was a blessing, and I'm hoping we see that mechanical change in this 3rd edition for Betrayal at House on the Hill. I'm also hoping we see some of the narrative design from Betrayal Legacy making its way into this new version of the game as well.
Praise the helm!
Praise the helm! There's just a lot of real cool choices that they made in that game. There's a lot of, I think, different styles of monsters and takes on how these monsters can come about and be in the house. And so because this game has been played a lot by a lot of people, almost one would say to death by some people, I feel like it'd be a great opportunity for them to add in some new stuff, take some elements from these other games, and all mix it in this 3rd edition. I'm very hyped for it. Let me know what you think down below. Speaking of Hasbro, we got a peek at a brand new D&D starter set. Now, we don't really know anything about it other than the fact that it will cost $49.99, according to a press release that Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro put out about a variety of different products that they have. But we also got a teaser trailer which showed a whole bunch of their lineup, and it showed some pictures of this new starter set. So we have a little bit of an inkling, and we can start speculating on what it might be. There's a blue dragon on the cover, and he looks like he's fighting a monk and a ranger, which I am really excited for because I always like when Dungeons & Dragons uses its namesake and actually has dragons in its adventures as well as dungeons. So I'm hoping for both of these things from the new starter set. I'm a huge fan of these starter sets. If you've never tried them out, I actually think they work exceptionally well for helping introduce new players to the game. And if you've never played 5th edition, it's a great way to jump in. Plus, they actually tend to be a little bit narratively continuous of each other. So there's actually been 2 starter sets prior to this. I guess technically one of them wasn't a starter set, but they essentially function as starter sets, and they actually continue into each other. So I don't know if the Dungeons and Dragons of Shipwreck Isle, which is what it's going to be called, is going to continue the existing narrative of the current 2 editions of the starter set, or if it's going to be standalone. But either way, I'm pretty excited, and we'll definitely be covering more as we learn more information about it. Now, if you didn't see earlier this week, I went on a little bit of a toy hunt, and I got really into the 80s and 90s toys there, talking about TMNT, G.I. Joe, which is why I'm bringing it up here, because one of my favorite board game publishers, Renegade Games, is going to be having a G.I. Joe miniatures game come out. Now, I was not a huge fan of the show growing up. I never watched it a huge amount, but I love the characters from it. They've got some really cool designs and everything, especially for some of the figures. So I'm going to be very curious to see what the models for this new Mission Critical game will be. It's called G.I. Joe Mission Critical. It's coming from Renegade Games. It's a 1 to 5 player cooperative game where you are playing as the Joes going against Cobra. And you're probably going to be having to, take on missions, secure objectives, that kind of thing. If you've ever played the Heroes of the Grid Power Rangers game from Renegade Games, it's going to be using the similar system to that one, so you'll have some expectations of what you're getting into. I am very much looking forward to this. Like I said, I really like Renegade Games. They do a lot of really fun IP projects, but they also made one of my favorite board games, Bargain Quest, so I'm looking forward to see what they do with this. If you're interested in some of the other nerdy things I'm into and want to check out the toy hunt I recently went on, make sure to check out my latest video here. Click on it now or after this news video is over. I don't really care which, but just make sure to watch it. I want to stick in the board game realm for a little bit longer and speculate on some things this time. Not actual news, there's no information about this, but it got me thinking because Elden Ring recently released from FromSoft, which is a brand new game set in their Souls-like universe, and I am loving it. It is Arthurian, it's got some great character designs in it. I'm always a huge fan of these games because they really draw a lot sometimes from like Berserk and other things that I really like, so I'm just a huge fan. And this got me thinking, Steamforge Games actually typically gets a license for a lot of the Dark Souls and Bloodborne games and partners with Bandai Namco to make them. And I am really, really hopeful that potentially we'll see an Elden Ring miniatures game come out from Steamforge as well. They do a whole bunch of IP related products, not just Dark Souls and everything. They've actually worked with Horizon Zero Dawn as well to make a really cool miniatures game for that. And I've heard great things about the Bloodborne game. I've not actually heard that much, now that I think about it, about the Dark Souls game itself. But if they end up with an Elden Ring game, I just think the miniatures are going to be rad. I really like Arthurian style designs. I've loved everything that I've seen so far, from like the monster designs and some of the character designs in Elden Ring as I've been playing through it. So I'm really, really hopeful that they get to make a game based off this IP. Boy, well, if you were hoping to get your hands on Cursed City last year when it originally released, but were unable to, guess what? GW has you covered because they're bringing it back, but just for 2 weeks for direct order too. They're not really just giving it out. It's made to order. So you're going to be able to get it on March 5th if you want this fantasy Warhammer Quest game with really, really cool vampire models, as well as a bunch of other undead characters and some really cool heroes. This is the time to get it. I picked up a set myself when it originally released. I've been sitting on it for quite a while because I was really bummed of how they treated it and how they basically were like, nah, we're actually not going to be selling this some more, even though we implied that we would be selling it for quite a long time. But we're not, so I kind of put it away. But now that it's coming back and it's becoming available again for people if they want it, I'm probably going to be pulling it back out and painting some of the miniatures from it on the channel, so be looking forward to that in the future. Next, we're going to talk about Kill Team Nachmund, because that is also just around the corner, and we finally got to take a look at the lovely, lovely spoiled Chaos Marines that we knew were coming in it. And unfortunately, unlike the Corsairs for the Eldar, we are not getting fully new Chaos Marines this time around. The Legionnaires. No! I know. I'm actually really bummed too. I was actually genuinely hoping for new models. However, it is cool that at least we are getting an upgraded sprue that's coming with this, which tells me that more than likely...
I'm still disappointed.
So am I. But this updated sprue does seem like it means that the Chaos Space Marine just kit will probably be upgraded down the line, much the same way that the... who was it? The Imperial Guard or something got an upgrade? Yeah, so just like how they got an upgrade, I expect we'll see this upgrade move into the main kits and everything so that everybody that wants to play Chaos Space Marines can start having all of these options so that you can do more melee, more shooting, or even make some psychic characters, which is nice, but I do wish they would give us new models when they actually preview these things. It would be lovely. The last thing that I wanted to cover this week is more Aeldari news, but I'm not going to focus so much on the rules because frankly, they're seeming a little bit repetitive and The Codex is up for pre-order this weekend. We're all going to be able to get our hands on the book relatively soon enough and take a look at what everything is in detail. So I'm not going to cover the news about the rules. However, I do want to talk about they spotlighted Jes Goodwin twice, on actually 3 times technically, in a Warhammer community articles this week. And I love when GW gets all gushy about their designers. And I personally have his book called The Eldar Collection, which GW released a couple of years ago. It's a really cool white book with like pure white book with some like gilded, I think, inlay on it, if I remember correctly. I haven't actually looked at it in a little bit, but when I first got it, I looked at it all the time because there's tons of Jes Goodwin art in there for the original Eldar designs, and I love his work. I, in general, just love most of especially the older Games Workshop work because they used to let their artists do a lot more traditional mediums. And it's not even so much that I don't think that they don't let their artists use traditional mediums modernly. I just think most artists tend to gravitate towards doing digital art because it's a little bit easier, faster, and you can just honestly sometimes accomplish more with it than you can traditional stuff. However, when I visited Paris once, I actually found this random hole-in-the-wall art gallery that sold some original charcoal drawings for some Games Workshop products. A lot of it was Warhammer Fantasy, which I was not as familiar with at the time when I was looking at it, so I didn't appreciate it quite as much. However, and no, I did not see any Jes Goodwin stuff there. God, that would have been amazing. But I did see some really cool Tau art, and one of my friends drooled on it while we were there. Thankfully, it was in plastic covering, so it didn't actually ruin the artwork. But it was stunning. And this book, this Jes Goodwin book about the Eldar, is all filled with that type of artwork, and I love it. So the fact that it got spotlighted, we got to see some of those really cool line drawings that he had done for the original concept for all of the Eldar designs was just really cool to see. If you haven't taken a look at it already, make sure to go check it out because it is quite beautiful. All right, that has been it for this week in hobby news. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. Thank you so much for being here, and a special thanks to my patrons for allowing content like this to continue to happen. You guys are awesome. I've been enjoying talking with you on Discord and just sharing my projects with you. If you'd like to join them, make sure to check the link down in the description below. In the meantime, I have been Angela. You've been watching Hobby Night, and you can tell me about what you thought of the news down below. Bye.